Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Your Spiritual Journey. This is Dr. Bob, and this is the space and the place where we talk about things important to your soul. As always, we'd like you to like us, subscribe, maybe even support us on Patreon. All of those things help keep us on the air. Today's guest is someone who was recommended to me by Robin Asaturo. You may recall, if you've been following our episodes, she was episode 153, which aired last December. And she told me that this person has been a great help to her. And I thought, well, boy, if she needed help, and this is who she goes to, we've got to have her on the show. So Deshawna Bentley is a psychic medium, intuitive guide, and the founder of energeticallygifted.com. Her work blends spiritual insight, intuitive communication, and gentle energy-based practices, including Pranic healing informed and Reiki-informed approaches. She supports people in moments where words are limited, working with non-speakers and altered or unresponsive states of consciousness by offering grounding, presence, and intuitive connection. So, Deshawna, I'm going to turn the mic over to you to let us know about your spiritual journey from childhood until now, and then I'll get into some questions. The mic's all yours.
Well, hi. Thank you for having me. It's a lot to cover, so I'll try to give you little clips of it. I believe wholeheartedly that where I am today is because of everything that I had been through as a child. I believe that the heightened energy awareness came from that. I kind of knew things were going on, but I just didn't have the language and the connection to put it all together. There was never any mentors or guides, and just wasn't something on my radar. It just kind of was, I would see, feel, hear, and, those kinds of things. But sometimes I would voice them, and then other times I wouldn't. But I think that there was trauma in the childhood, and that kind of shaped the sensitivity of what it is that I could pick up. So in other words, when I see another person, I immediately know if they've been through childhood trauma similar, because it just vibrationally it feels. So my first point of contact is a vibrational frequency that I pick up on. So my body's a healer. I call it healing. There's a lot of words that I don't really know how to put into them, because education-wise, I just get my education through my guidance, through meditation and God. I don't try to follow other people, and because then you can kind of get off the narrow path. So pretty much everything that I had went through has shaped me to who I am today, and I want today to empower people to connect with the language that they're receiving and not understanding. So my main method is to give them clarity, not to put words in their mouth, not to, create new experiences in that aspect, but it is to allow them and show them how they can expand spiritually in their own way, not in a directed way from me or from anyone else. So it strengthens them spiritually, if that makes any sense. Do you understand that part?
Well, there's a lot of detail you're leaving out as you explain how you've gotten to where you are. So I'm going to take you back for some detail.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So childhood, where did you grow up?
I grew up on the Gulf Coast in Mississippi.
Okay.
In Hancock County and Harrison County. Those are the counties that I grew up in. kind of in between both.
All right. And did your parents follow any particular religion, and did they take you to church or temple or provide you with any spiritual upbringing or religious upbringing?
Well, yes and no. I think the only experience I really had, my parents were never religious, and I didn't ever see them reading a Bible or going to church kind of thing. But when I was younger, I do remember like a church bus that would come by and pick us up occasionally. So we kind of had a little bit of exposure, but not like full teachings and things like that. Just in your younger elementary years, not like adolescence where you're really going to pick up on it. Just kind of like felt like a seed planting kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't consistent, and I really didn't grow up knowing um, God or Jesus or religion at all. So, so that was just my little limited exposure.
Yeah. So after you got out on your own, uh, did you expose yourself to any of those traditions?
Yeah, actually, when I got out on my own, I decided I didn't want just one. I wanted to experience as much as I could. So I went to every church that I could. I went from um, Pentecostal to Baptist. You just name it, I went. And if I could experience it, I wanted to go to one that felt right, not just
Uh-huh.
you're going through motions. I needed to feel it, and I didn't understand all of that. I just know I needed it. And actually, I had some experiences that hindsight I didn't understand what was going on at the time. But you know how when you hear about people speaking in tongues and a message directly from God, there's a separate interpreter, that kind of thing. I actually experienced that one time in the middle of a sermon, and that blew me away. Like afterwards, during it, I was kind of like, "This is odd. This is weird," because I didn't understand religion, and I hadn't even really been committed to reading the Bible. So it was like, "What is he doing?" But hindsight, I beat myself up. I'm like, I should have paid attention to the message. Oh my gosh, how powerful! But um, but yeah. So I've had different experiences and exposed my children to different experiences, but never pressed one particular religion. So
Uh-huh. Okay. So there were you made general reference to some experiences as a child. Could you talk about any specific experiences that left a lasting impression on you?
well, yeah, I would like to expand on that, but I don't want to put it into terms or have a feeling of victimization because that's not it. Um, I now view things from a higher perspective, so I can understand,
Mm-hmm.
why people didn't respond and do the things that they should have done. But here's the thing: I grew up in a household that was very volatile, drinking, physical abuse, um, even terms of sexual abuse. So there was a lot of things that happened that now I understand a little more of why I am as strong as I am internally and externally. Why I have strict boundaries that I will not allow people to cross, no matter what their titles are. And that was a big thing because growing up here in the South, it was always you have to be respectful, you have to be yes ma'am, no ma'am, yes sir, no sir. I kind of crossed that line when with my children and didn't impress that because with that impression to me became, oh well, you must listen to what they have to say. And being harmed by adults as a child, I made sure that my children knew just because they're an adult, just because they're, a preacher, a teacher, or whatever they are, does not mean that you need to listen to everything that they say. So if you feel it's not right, then don't do it immediately. Find a way to contact me, kind of thing. So there was certain systems that I put into place because of my experiences that not a lot of people would really agree with, and that's okay because it worked for me and my family. Um, so I guess the different sensitivities that come up with going through a household like that was you could kind of see the switch and feel it before it happened because it was so routine um, that that heightened my sensitivity as to what is to come or hidden behaviors that other people would not see behind people that are drinkers or certain kind of behaviors. So I believe that's what helped me today to be who I am,
Uh,
other than the direction by God. I feel like it's really
yeah.
motivated.
Okay. I'm assuming that somewhere along the line you got some training in mediumship. Is that true, or you just came upon this naturally and it grew from experience?
Well, that's a real fun one. Actually, I had the Widowmaker heart attack in 2020. And when I did, it was like something totally switched within me. Afterwards, I remember being very emotional once I was home. I'm talking like the day, within the week of being home from the hospital. And I kept feeling, I'm getting communication from God, and I didn't understand what I was supposed to do. But then after praying and meditating, I heard specifically, this is your second chance. Now, what are you going to do with it? And I was like, God, I don't know. What am I supposed to do with it? I have no idea. And so I was confused, and that was what I was left with. And I was like, holy cow, what do I do with all of this? And so I would pray and ask for the doors that needed to be open to me, open right away. And I would walk through them regardless of what I felt. I would do it, I would follow. And then I would see, online, I would scroll online, I would see different teachers, and I was thinking, okay, well, I need to do something like this. I need a mentor, I need somebody to help me understand. So I actually followed this one lady, Julie Clapp. She was the only one that really I mentored under, or she doesn't even like to consider herself as a mentor, but to me, learning how to understand that language that I was receiving was a mentorship to me. But I just joined her group, and then I started understanding a little more. And then I got to the point to where I knew what was coming through, I disconnected from that group and just 100% got my guidance from praying, meditation, that kind of thing. Because I didn't want somebody else's spiritual imprint to be my guidance. I wanted to get it directly and cleanly. I wanted to be a clear channel. So that's what I did. And then basically, the weeble wobble, but you don't fall down kind of thing. that's what I did because I was just being a good steward and taking directive. So if I felt again like I was a feeler, so this is how it became more prevalent with me. I would be out with functions with my children or whatever, and then my hands would start getting hot, and I'd be like, and then I would start getting impressions and here you need to go talk to this person, or you physically need to touch them, and I'm going, no, that's a wackadoodle thing. I'm not going to do that. I'm having these silent conversations with God, and I'm going, this is not happening. This is not. And finally, I would just say, well, if you want me to talk to this person, you better bring them to me. And this is literally how I speak with spirit, because God knows me, my heart, and He knows that my intent. So I don't worry about anything. So, anyways, it always happened. Every time I would say that, I'm not doing this. If you want this to happen, you better bring them to me. Sure enough, they would find a way to have a conversation or make their way to me, and I'd be sweating bullets. Like, oh my gosh, I have to tell this person, they're going to think this and that. Once I got past that what other people thought about me and just doing what I knew that was like a soul message delivered straight from divine, I was okay. Then I didn't really care. It was like, okay, well, you may think I'm wackadoodle in the beginning, but everyone that I've left um, really felt the messages resonated. And it wasn't like, oh, your lost loved one is coming through, that kind of thing. It was more of um, a real divine message to help them. Whenever those messages come through when I was out in public, randomly, it was always because, hindsight looking back, it was always because they were stuck or they felt in their heart the heaviness of I'm not doing enough, or you know, am I really on the path and doing what I'm supposed to do, like a soul purpose path. It was always a confirmation from God, and that's how I took it, because I would be shown things to tell them that, of course, I didn't know anything about them, and it was very relevant. They would be like, "God, thank you. I've been so worried about that," or something, but it was mainly to do with what's happening in their life right then and there.
Yeah. Okay, so take us through the experience of, one, realizing that you have this gift, and two, then using it to help people. Like when you first discovered that you had this gift, did you find that you were tuning into things that were able to help people randomly, and you would go up to them and say, I think I can help you? Or did it happen with friends who you were able to help, whether they, maybe they didn't ask you for help because they didn't know you had the gift yet, but you knew that you could help them, so you offered that help. How did this transition from Deshawna, just everyday person, to Deshawna, the medium who could help people? What talk us
Okay.
through that?
Okay. Well, when it would happen randomly, I wouldn't just go up to people and randomly give messages. I would be called and felt that I needed to, but I would put it back on God to say that if you want this person, bring them to me, because where there's a will, there's a way. I believe that. And if this message was not ego driven and it was divine purposely driven, there would be a way that they were made to come and speak to me. So I didn't just, because I can see people out and know things, but it's not my place to go up to them to say, hey, guess what? I think
Yeah.
there's a lot of integrity with what I do. And sometimes you're shown things, or I'm shown things that you're not supposed to say. I'm shown that for my own private reasons. Maybe it's to protect myself from that person or what have you. So I didn't really come outwardly about it until I got more comfortable in knowing what it was that I was receiving, you know. And because in the beginning, it's kind of like, okay, I'm made to tell this person this exact thing, but I didn't understand why I couldn't understand the message. And that was the disconnect. Like, the messages should make sense to me, but then after, you know, praying and meditation and years of it coming through, messages are never supposed to make sense to me. That was the key. I'm not supposed to logically think. I'm a logical thinker. So, I'm a legalistic mindset. So it kind of, there's a lot of work to get me to channel from the other side, because my mind wants to click back to logic and legalistic. And so I know my spirit guides are probably, with a newspaper wanting to hit me. Saying, wait a minute. But I did come out. My family kind of knew, or I don't really know. I'm going to take that back. I don't know that they knew. My mom did, but some of my other family members, I would tell them things, and I just got tired of arguing because it would be like, no, that's not going to happen. And I'm like, yeah, this is really going to happen. And they wouldn't believe me. And so I just kind of backed away from telling them things and felt like, well, it wasn't my place at that point. Because when you really are opening up in the beginning, sometimes it's one of those, oh, wait a minute, I know this, I'm going to tell you this, and then I had to rein that back in to, uh, how you say, God redirected me and kind of got on to me and said, wait a minute, know your role kind of thing. Get back into your space, and I will tell you when it's time to approach, because that was all ego driven. And I didn't understand that part, but it was. And so I reined that back in. And I do say stuff to people that are close to me, but there's also I guess it would be a spiritual contract that I put into place and said that with my guides and with God, that if it's something very eminent or if it's something powerful that they need to hear right then yes, I'll deliver it. But I'm not going to deliver, stuff that is just every day, that's not worth it and stuff that I already know. So when they come to me and I already know them, it has to be something solid. It has to be something really strong and meaningful before I will approach it. I have friends that have people that have crossed over on the other side. And it's always, if their family member comes to me through spirit, it's specifically, I know, for a reason, because it'll always be something new. It'll always be something emergent. But that doesn't work the same way with other people. It was just my contract that I've made with spirit for people that I know. And that's just to keep the integrity of my friendship and things. So my friends don't constantly get messages, and nobody likes to know it all, first of all. Nobody does.
Yeah.
So sometimes even if you know it, you need to shut up, So so there's been a lot of that, and that's had to take a lot of work on my southern big mouth, but yeah, I've had a lot of work trying to transition into this. And when I decided that I didn't want to focus on the people around me because they had systematically already put me in a box. Well, I've known you for X amount of years, and you've never done that kind of thing before, and blah blah blah. So I knew at that point, if I wanted to expand, I needed to get outside of what I knew, who I knew.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I just decided to open up a line to where I went on like Facebook groups that did free readings, and I would offer, a message here and there. And finally it started picking up, and I said, well, you know what? I think I'm just going to offer like at least 75 to 100 free readings. So this way I know 100%, again, legalistic mind. Am I supposed to be doing this, or is this just, whatever? Or is this just something that is internally for me to help guide me through my life and not others? So, so once I did my free readings and things and got feedback and stuff, I said, I've got to help people. And I know there's more people out there that felt the same way I did when I started opening up and kind of understanding I was receiving something, but didn't know. And it felt bigger. It felt bigger than me. It felt bigger than almost like getting clothes a little too big or something you got to fit into them kind of thing. It really felt like the adjustments that were going to be made, I already knew that I was not going to take those adjustments and directives from other people. I wanted it to be clear and clean. So even if somebody told me something, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that, okay, and that's how I would take it. But I would take and go straight to prayer or meditation. And I would not budge until I was shown, okay, this is what you need to do. And that's pretty much how I work, literally, even today. Like when people call me or set up an appointment for a reading, I'm already shown things prior to even meeting with them. As soon as I see their name or as soon as I hear them. And then I know if this is a connection that that needs to be made, because I still have to guard myself spiritually as well. The slippery slope of this to me is, and some people may not understand this, but there's a spiritual war that goes on constantly. And I'm aware of that. And I'm aware that if you're shining bright, your light is shining bright, you're doing good. The bad always is attracted. The dark is attracted to the light. So you have to make sure that you're not exposed to that. And if you are, then just know. Like, for example, I had a gentleman that kept reaching out, wanting private lessons and a reading and this and that. And I kept him calling about it. I'm like, I'm telling you, it doesn't feel right. There's something with this guy. And when I took it to meditation, I was shown that, you know, he was in deviling in the darkness, you know. So finally, I did through meditation, was shown that I needed to have that reading with him, and I was kind of apprehensive about it. But as soon as I did, I said, "Oh, you connect with angels," and he was like, "Yes," and I'm like, "But it's dark angels," and he was just blown away, and he was like, "Well, yeah," and then, you know, I can't understand why my head is spinning, and I'm like, "Okay, here," you know, because I had set clear boundaries for protection. God was protecting me during this time, but it was a way to kind of shine light into him, and I did that, but I just didn't feel like that was like a real true calling. So when I get people like that, and I feel and I know that they're in the darkness, I won't do readings or things for them, because I don't want any part of that. So a lot of this has to do with opening up in a way that I also keep the boundaries that I want in place.
Yeah.
So hopefully that helps to understand a little bit. I know I kind of get sidetracked. There's so much to say and there's so many things to cover. So I'm going to pause and let you kind of redirect, guide what area you want me to go in.
Yeah. Well, before we get off that topic of dark angels and spirits that you don't want to deal with, I've talked to mediums who intentionally say a prayer, or they have a mantra that they say to make sure that those spirits can't interfere or interject themselves into the process. So do you have a ritual that you go through to kind of clear the air before you get started with the reading?
Yes, actually I do before and after.
Okay.
Before the readings, I always do meditation, a quick meditation. It doesn't have to be long, but it's a visual meditation.
Mm-hmm.
And I envision myself like roots from my feet going into the dirt and earth, Mother Earth. And then I envision God's healing white light of protection around me. And this way I know that whatever comes to me doesn't go through me as far as physical, because I have that barrier.
Yeah.
I can still identify it. I can still do what my job is to do, but I am protected. So yeah, I do that, and I always ask to be shown and be told what is in their best and highest good to come
Mm-hmm.
through. And it does. It happens every time, you know. And then for the ending, when I'm done, I will clear my space. Sometimes I'll use a crystal bell, you know. Everybody's like, "Oh, you have to sage, you have to do this," but really it's all intention. The power is in the mind. Power is totally in the mind and the mouth.
Uh-huh.
Your words and mind can cleanse any area, lickety split. But sometimes I do it if it feels real heavy. I'll cleanse it with the bell, and then ask if any energy that is here that is not mine or of God's healing white light, it must be returned to sender. And then some spiritual workers will alchemize the energy. I don't, and I guess, well, just how you view it, but I don't bother alchemizing the energy. I just want it to return to where it is supposed to go to. And in other words, so if somebody heavy's energy, is still here and lingering, then it goes back to them. Not that it's going to be put back on them, but it's directed outside of my
Yeah.
safety.
Yeah.
And that's how I clean and clear my area when I'm done with my readings.
Okay. So, in getting started to put yourself out there and have clients who weren't just people you knew, you went on Facebook and offered services. You said it at no charge in the beginning. I'm assuming that now you do have a fee structure for working with clients.
I do have a fee structure, but I have also a private group that I teach others, and I feel like I was called to teach the teachers, if that makes sense. So the
Okay.
leaders, the ones that are also leading and teaching others. There is no fee schedule for that. These people are personally vetted by me, and I feel that that is my portion of giving back. So I help them expand on their gifts, and also they receive new gifts because I expose them to different things. But there's no fee schedule for that. They're in this group. They're in my private group, and they get practice readings and things like that, and tools and education. And I'm really big on education as far as the neuroscience connection into the energy and everything, because it's easy to say, oh, well, I think I feel blah 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 blah, but let's connect the dots and show you how this works and why this works and why you're receiving things, maybe why your brain is responding a certain way.
Yeah.
So it helps. Everybody learns in different ways. So some are audible, and everything. So I do a lot of different practices that other people don't do, because I want to expose them. Like, we'll do practice name reads, like not even seeing the person, not even hearing their voice, just a written name, see what you can get. Or I'll say, hey, we have a sitter coming in, and I won't tell them if it's male or female or why they're coming, and I'll just say, meditate or pray prior to the session, write down what you get, and then we'll discuss that in our next group meeting, kind of thing. So it's been very effective to give that, allow them to trust what the information is that's coming through. Because sometimes if you're looking at another person on the screen, it can kind of get apprehensive in the beginning. It's like, oh my gosh, they're looking at me. I know I'm getting stuff, but I'm kind of scared to say things. And that gets them outside of that bubble in order to strengthen them. So I feel very strongly about helping others receive clarity in the signs and symbols and information that they are receiving, because in doing so, that makes them a stronger, clearer channel out in the world, not just for their personal life, but the other people that connect to them. And everybody is going to have that other person eventually. So it's almost like seed planting. I look at it like a garden. This is seed planting. So once I devote time and energy to this personal group that I have, they're planting seeds. And guess what? They're starting their own gardens. And then those seeds come up. And it's a beautiful thing, because you watch that expansion and you watch people grow, but I'm not saying you have to do things this way. You watch them organically grow in the way that they're supposed to grow, but you give them that safety of the space that they're not judged in, the space to help them understand, because sometimes they'll receive signs and symbols that are correct, but the interpretation may be a little off because their mind is filling in certain blanks. And I help them connect that instead of saying, oh, I didn't get that right, this and that. No, no, no. Let's go back. Let's go back to the information you received, and let me show you how those dots connect. And this helps strengthen them and helps them understand their own interpretation as to what comes through. So I'm very big on teaching and and helping others with that. And I still do a lot of free readings because I, this is not a process I expect to be rich on. Some, I guess it's a part of me that I don't know. It's kind of like it really chaps my butt that people are, oh, $1,500 to $2,000 to join my group and this and that. And I'm like, this is spiritually driven. If it's spiritually driven, I'm not trying to drain their bank accounts. It doesn't make sense to me. It has to be, um, it has to feel right to me. And putting money on readings and stuff, yeah, there's a reason for that. There's a reason for that because that's going to filter out people that are just think of it as nonsensical, that would just blow up your phone or blow up your email for everyday things. This is for people that are really serious, and most of the time, very rarely do people. I shouldn't probably admit this, but it's just the way I am. Because I hardly ever even get the full rate of what it is on my website. Once they come in for a reading, I'll be like, okay, I can feel where they are financially. If they're not there for a financial reading, I don't say these things, but I can feel it. So I adjust, my scale, my sliding scale. They don't know I have a sliding scale, but I do. So I'll just, oh, today we have a special, or, I'm going to give you a discount or whatever. But to me, it feels like the more that I do and I'm doing it for the right reasons and not just a monetary gain, the more I get. And this is also what I teach my group, that the more you do wholeheartedly and clearly with clear intent, the more you're going to gain.
Yeah.
So more gifts are open to you. And that's just the way it works,
Okay, so there was a transition from you feeling comfortable with offering your services to complete strangers to feeling that you were in a position to help others learn how to do this or to grow in their ability to do this. So when was it and how did that happen that you suddenly felt that, okay, I've got this and I have things to offer people who also want to offer these same services? You know, when was that point that you felt that you could help the helpers?
Actually, it came through after I had done so many free readings. Like it was probably over 100 free readings, literally. Because even when I did my Facebook posting and things like that, it was completely, X amount of numbers of free readings. And after that, I started feeling like, okay, there's more to it. Because here's the thing, like I would get on a process to where I thought that I'm supposed to be doing, right? That was the problem. First of all, because it's not just supposed to be I and me because that's ego, but I would say, okay, well, I feel this is where, I'm being led and I'll start out just great here. But then God would put impressions on me that there's something more. And I would be like, like there's something more I'm supposed to be doing. What is this? And then all of a sudden in meditation, I would be shown you need to teach the teachers. So then I would put another post out there for people that are already, already reading and things like that if you wanted to fine tune. I felt that I was given the tools directly because sometimes you can do like a general class, but I look at everybody individually and see where they're at because before they're in my group, remember I say I vetted them, right? So in the process of vetting, I know what their ability is. I'm shown that. I'm shown where to strengthen them because it's not coming from me. The information is coming from divine. It's coming from God because they have um, a purpose, a God purpose to help people, and only only the divine knows the exact of what they're supposed to do. I just know that when they're with me and what I'm supposed to guide them as far as opening them up. Because mainly, most of the people that have come to me as far as the leaders, they know so much already. There's just an apprehension on either learning something new, getting past the traditional religious part, like, oh gosh, I can't do that. Or I was taught that that was not a good thing to do, or I'm kind of worried that people are going to view in a negative fashion. Once they're past that part, and they really open up. And the most beautiful part to seeing somebody open up really is when their give a damn is busted. And that's really how it works. When you no longer care what others think of you, when you no longer care of a title that you're supposed to put that hat on and be and this and that, when you can actually connect authentically with who you are as a person and where you feel your purpose driven spiritual business is supposed to go. So I help people to come outside of that area and really mainly connect with who they are. I found the stronger that they go back to themselves, the stronger they are as a leader and as a teacher, because it's not about out here. It's not about anything out here. It's about in here, you know. And that's kind of what drove me, because spirit put onto me. God, I say spirit, but it's God, Jesus. I feel strongly that when it's time for me to move to a different portion of what I'm doing, I get that on the inside, kind of like, this is great, but there's something more. And then I don't move again. I take it to meditation. I don't move until I'm shown what that more is that I'm supposed to be doing. So when I get that nudge, but I can kind of feel it vibrationally, I'm like, something, wait a minute, there's something else I need to add to this, or I need to do something different. And when I start getting that, then I know to take it back to meditation before I put my 2 cents in. We could get off on a weird path that we shouldn't be on. And so I make sure it's driven by the divine and what I'm supposed to do. And I know that completely. When I keep my channel clear, then my directives are clear, and people around me are flourishing because they're not being led by me. I don't want it to be like that. They're being led. I'm being led with spirit, so it's being led through me to them. So I don't know. Hopefully that answers the question. There's a lot to unpack in that.
Well, something that you offer is pranic healing. And can you explain what that is and where that came from?
Okay, so again, when I didn't understand what it was I was feeling, I always knew that when I got around someone, my hands would heat up. And I was like, because years ago, I've done many, many things. I've been a massage therapist and that sort of thing. And I just thought, well, I could feel on somebody's body. And, when I'm doing massage, and I knew that there was a problematic area, but, I'm not a doctor. I don't diagnose, but I would just be like, oh, there's something going on right over in here, right? And let me kind of work this area. But I didn't realize that when the hands heat up, that's a sign of physical healer. And I didn't have that language connected. I just thought everybody felt that when they did massage on someone. But I can physically put my hands on someone and tell where there's a problem in their body. And it's all done by heat. It's a heat sensation. Whether you're feeling the heat externally or not, I'm feeling it like it's a spotlight on it. And so chronic healing energy to me is just moving the energy. And I did Reiki training, certification and things like that. But again, when I was doing my Reiki certification, I still felt something was off. Felt like it wasn't as natural as it should be. And so when I prayed and meditated, I was just shown, do it how you are led to do it. So in other words, um, some people may use signs and symbols, when they're doing their Reiki sessions. And I was shown that you don't need to do that. Or at least for me, I didn't need to do that. I just needed to move the energy through their body and keep moving it till the heat kind of dissipated. So that's how I do my pranic healing or my pranic energy healing work, because it's about moving that stuck energy. And sometimes within that stuck energy, there's a lot of emotion, and the emotion for things that's happened in their past, things that aren't going on currently in their life. Things come through as that healing session takes place. And when you say healing session, I just want to say that that's more of a soul thing. It doesn't mean physically you're going to leave the session and you're going to be 100%, don't need to see a doctor, none of that. No, you still need to do what you should be doing, a physician checkup, all this other stuff. I'm not the go be it. I never claimed to be. But I can tell you that there are certain physical indicators that connect back to emotional traumas and things that need to be exposed. And during those sessions, that comes through. And sometimes even loved ones come through, but it just so only because I opened myself up, because I'm surrounded and protected in God's white light, I know that whatever's come through is clear and clean, and it's for their soul purpose
Mm-hmm.
in healing and helping them move forward and propel in a positive manner for society and for themselves. And that's how I do mine. And that's kind of how that come about. It was only about connecting. So I wanted to know, why are these hands getting hot? I don't understand that. And then finally, once you ask these questions, and especially once you say it out loud, then things start coming to you. Like the universe is like, let me answer that for you, and starts throwing stuff back. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm filling it up, because I'm like old school. I want my pencil, my paper, my notebook, and I want to educate myself and learn. So I would learn about the processes and different things, but not necessarily from a specific person, because again, going by specific people, you would say, oh, well, you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way. How I teach people nowadays is like, look, don't go by 100% of what I say. Take it through prayer, meditation, get confirmation, and listen. If God told me that I had to go walk around my car 3 times before I got in it to drive, honey, that's what I'd be doing in my driveway. I care about what the neighbors think. No. So you take your directive specifically through prayer so that it's not tainted by somebody's past experiences, somebody's impressions of what they think you should do. Um, and it's always a guidance that I always guide them back for confirmation. But most of the time when I say stuff, there's a recognition, like they already internally know. It's just validation, like, yeah, I thought I was getting that too, and I just want I want to make sure. But then I always say, well, look, you really want to be 100%, then you take the prayer and meditation, and you're going to get your answer. But don't move until you do, because if you move before you get your answer, then you're moving. You're doing it by yourself. You're doing it in ego,
Yeah.
and so the energy healing come about because of the physical feeling of not knowing why the hands got hot and what that meant.
Yeah. So just to clarify some things, it sounds like you got certified to be a massage therapist at some point.
In Florida, yes, massage therapy. This has been years ago, probably about 20 years ago.
What year was that?
Honestly, I don't know because I never kept up the certification. So,
That was pre-2020 though?
oh yeah, way pre 2020. It
Okay.
was before I could do anything about doing spiritual work or anything like that. I was in law enforcement. I did corrections at the time, and I was had my maternity leave, and I said, well, I really need to have a regular schedule. So let me, while I'm on maternity leave, they have me on there for 9 months. I said, let me find some certification program that I could do that would keep me consistent, at home
Uh-huh.
and not rotating nighttime schedule because it was hard to find, sitters for that time. Because I was a single parent. And anyway, so that's what I chose, and I learned a lot, and it was really wild. It was really wild. It opened me up to different things, and but still, then even after that, I was kind of like, no, because I didn't want to be viewed as odd or weird or whatever. And that was a stigmatism that had been put on me as a child when I would say things. So to me, it was very, very hard for me to get outside of that, to to know myself and be comfortable within my skin. That's what took the hardest part. Once I got past all of those ugly layers and got comfortable with who I am, then God did wonders. I really flourished in what it is that I feel I'm supposed to do, because I don't like the attention on me. I like it to be on other people. It's
Mhm.
not. I don't want you, because that takes away. Honestly, it takes away from the work that it is that I'm doing. I don't mind being behind the scenes. I'd much rather that, because in that aspect of it, once you here's the thing. Okay, so I'm just going to jump here for a minute, and this will connect why I feel that way is because, like, working with non-speakers and things like that, and I feel that once the whole of society knows exactly what you can do, there's a risk there. So there's certain things that I won't say that, nobody's ever going to know 100% of what it is that I can do and what I can see and everything else, because that's for my protection. Um, because I think that ultimately puts um, danger on you in the broad scheme of life, like from higher ups. And I don't mean spiritually, I mean, you know, legalistically.
Mm.
So again, protection. I always caution, even if somebody has gifts, if you want to go out there and shine and beat the drum, that's on you. But again, I caution to what exactly you do expose to everybody,
Yeah.
because there's some things that are not supposed to be exposed.
So there's, I'm, I guess, doing this in a spiral, even though I'm trying to get at the linear progression of things. So, in your experience, uh, when you finished high school, you went into law enforcement. You went into a training program or school for law enforcement. And what was it you did in law
Well, first of all,
enforcement?
if you wanted to do a linear thing, we'd be here all day just on that, because I've done literally a lot of things, not even just exaggerating.
Okay.
So, first of all, I left Mississippi when I was 14 as a runaway. I went to Florida, and I felt safer on the streets than I did at home. So
Okay.
I moved away. I always heard Daytona Beach was the big go do it, so that's where I went. And I lived there for about 23 years, and just started working, staying, and I had to be emancipated because I was too young to work full time. So I started off working fast food, Wendy's, Burger King, that kind of thing,
Mhm.
restaurants, waitressing. Then I moved into childcare, did childcare up until about 18 or 19. Then I finally got my GED. And then at that age, and then from there, I thought there was more, but I didn't know what. Um, and then I ended up getting married early and had my first child. And so from that progression, I just did like just regular jobs, cashier jobs, nothing major, nothing. Um, After when I was going through my divorce, I started going to corrections academy, and corrections is where I went in Florida, and I did that. I don't know how many years, probably about 6 years, 6 or 7 years, and and that's where I stayed. And then again, now it picks up from when I went on maternity leave for my second child. Then I did massage therapy, and then from there, it just it didn't feel right. So then I got certified as a life, health, and variable annuity agent. So I was constantly doing something, and I think I was trying to find myself really, and so educational processes to me, I was just gobbling them all up. And so I did that part of it. I did that for a little bit. I sold timeshare for a little bit. I've just done a lot of things that kind of gave me, and I look back at it now, and I see that every little thing that I did helped me to be heightened in what it is that I do now. So when I get a reference, I'll be like, oh, that feels like when I did that. So, then I'm connecting dots in that way. So I think that really did help me in that aspect of it. So to mark down an exact year and time frame would kind of be hard for me, but I mean, hey, try.
Okay. Well, the interest in that backstory is that this podcast is called Your Spiritual Journey, and people want to see the touch points that they might be able to identify with, where they can say, well, that could have been me, or that was me, so I really identify with this person. So, it's not out of character, I guess, for the show to say, okay, exactly what happened when and why did that happen?
Yeah.
So you got divorced. Did you get married a second time?
Yes, I did. Finally got married for the second and last time. And we had I call my caboose. So I have 3 children.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was 2013. And we had been together for, I don't know, close to 5 years or so before we got married.
Okay. So he
He
married
was
this
from a Catholic.
he married this person with a particular background, and I was in 2013. Come 2020, you started going off the deep end with with these
Yes.
spiritual practices that somebody may have looked at you and said, this isn't the person I married. What's going on? So how do you work through that
Ooh,
since
that's
you're still happily married? So somehow you got through this process of being somebody different from who he originally married.
right. And here's the thing, all of the time that I experienced going through the different jobs and everything that led me up to meeting my husband, I felt that I was lost. Either I was running from something or trying to chase something, trying to understand who I was, where I fit in, and I just didn't feel comfortable in anything for too long. So I kept chasing more. So when I when I met my husband, Catholic upbringing, like totally, like he knows the Bible like the back of his hand, which it was foreign to me because I always was like, oh yeah, I don't know if this pastor's telling me BS, and I would have to go look it up and that kind of thing. But he knows verses, and in the beginning it was like, oh,
Excuse me.
he was saying, I don't know about this. I've always been taught that this was kind of evil, and you don't contact or connect with spirits and this and that, and so it was very hard. It was a very, very strong tug of war because I felt called. It wasn't something that I just wanted to do for whatever purpose. It just felt something I had to do.
Yeah. There are passages in the Bible that warn you against mediums. Do not go to mediums or soothsayers,
Oh yes, I know. I've heard plenty of these passages, and but the thing about it is that's one thing. Because once I showed him, because we went through a long time, many fights and arguments about this. I mean, to the point to where when I had my heart attack, God told me, this is your second chance. What are you going to do with it? I didn't know. Then I was shown that I needed to keep going, and then it still continued the argument and the fighting over it because he thought that that was just evil, but he was never exposed to it. This was something that I didn't, my family did not get exposed to my readings and things like that. They didn't know what was being said or anything. It was
Yeah.
something that I did, on my own time. So I started to let him see some of those free readings that I did. It was on the post, on group things, so he could see how I responded or what they had questioned or asked, then how I responded, and then how they validated or whatever. And then he was like, oh, well, wait a minute. After so many of these, he started to see that there was nothing evil or being misled, or it was
Hmm.
very specific information. And so now he knows, he's like, okay, if somebody at work, which has been asked, he's an ICU nurse and he's, a charge nurse. So some of the other men would say, well, how do you deal with this, Rodney? Because your wife um, is doing spiritual work, and you're a strict Catholic kind of thing. And so, how does this work for you? How are you allowing your
Hmm.
wife to do it? He said, well, when we cross over, it's just us there with our meeting our maker. I'm not there to meet the maker with her. She's there on her own. So whatever she does in this lifetime, she has to be held accountable for when she meets her maker. And I think that's great. Finally, he's come to that, agreement, but he does
Yeah.
know that the things that I have said and the things that I do is always guiding people for positive. So I think it's kind of hard for him to understand 100%, but he just knows that, look, there's a respect there. Don't look into me, don't ask, and,
Yeah.
because I don't want to say, fair enough. But here's the thing, sometimes when it's, uh, like, again, sometimes information comes and that we're not supposed to share. Uh,
Hmm.
the information will come, like even like if I'm on a plane flying somewhere and I'm doing a quiet meditation just to, kind of calm myself and block off everybody, things will come through, and they've come through about my husband. But do I go home and, hey, da, 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 da? No, because he's asked me to honor that. Not, I wasn't intentionally seeking God show me that, whatever. It wasn't like that. It was just close my eyes and I asked for, what do I need to be shown right now?
Yeah.
Give me what I need to know. And so when those things come through, it's for a reason. Now, it's never anything for a reason for the bad. It's always for a reason to prepare, or in that aspect, this is coming up. You need to be prepared. I have gotten warnings, from, outside influences that are coming in that means harm or bad things, Um, so it's never like that, but it's always been a hard thing. But now, if you talk to him, he's like my biggest supporter. He totally, he gets it. He understands. He doesn't interfere. He doesn't try to know, what's going on or any of
Uh-huh.
that. He knows that there's integrity within the read, that I'm not going to discuss it, that kind of thing. But yeah, it was very hard. I'm telling you. At one point, I said, "Listen, you either get right or get left." In other words,
Yeah.
this
Right.
road, buddy, because I love you, but I love my maker more.
Yeah.
So I'm being guided and fully told this is what I have to do. And I know 100% I have no malice in my heart towards anybody that I'm directing or guiding. And I know that it's for their good because that's what I ask and that's what I'm shown.
Yeah.
Um, so at that point, I had to put my feet in the ground, and he knew I was serious. And it was just like, hey, I need to back off of her and let her do her, or this is going to end. And literally, that's kind of where it went. So if anybody else is going through this, just know you have to go through, you have to stand your ground for who you are,
Right,
and what you
right.
did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you for that honesty. Uh, I hate to say this because I have a lot of more questions I could ask, but we're running out of time. And toward the end of every podcast, I like to give the guest an opportunity to leave the audience with a few words of wisdom. So this is your opportunity to do that with this particular audience.
I think my biggest lesson that I've learned really is to don't let outside influences direct who you are, where you're going, and your spiritual expansion. Always get your guidance and confirmation through prayer or meditation. You're not going to be served wrong. I don't care if it's family, friend, or foe. I don't care what their title is. It's very important that even if they say it, take it by a grain of salt and go get your direction and guidance through meditation and prayer. You'll feel a soul resonation with things and people that are in alignment with you. And the things that are not, just let them go. Let them go by the wayside, because it doesn't mean that you don't care about people when you do these, but this is a protective boundary and helping to keep you aligned spiritually in who you are, where you're going, and what your spiritual purpose is. And that's the only way to stay in clear alignment, is by guidance through prayer and meditation. Again, I'm not very religious, so I get all of my information through prayer and meditation. And that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's saying what, just go back to prayer and meditation, and that'll give you the confidence to be and shine who you are.
Okay, great words. So, audience, as always, take what resonates with you, incorporate it into your life, and put the rest on a shelf until you're ready to deal with it. And until next time, this has been your spiritual journey.